Okay, so all right. So a little backstory here. When I was a kid growing up, Batman the animated series was kind of just starting to be on TV, and I was starting to see more of it. And I didn't know that Batman and Superman were even part of the same universe, and I didn't know what comic books was because I was a child. So I like when I got older and I realized that there was comic books dedicated to these TV shows that I would be watching. I really wanted to get into the comic books, but growing up poor and growing up kind of far away from any place where I can go to get books from, it was really hard to read comics. And I always found myself very much inclined to DC because I grew up with it was the Flash, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, all these types. I mean, it's like when what kind of got me a little bit into Marvel was the animated Iron Man series where they gave him like this cool beard and long hair thing, and there was this other shows, Fantastic Four, when but instead of Johnny being on it, there was a robot, and I think it was because they didn't want kids setting themselves on fire to be like Johnny Storm, and which I mean, like on one hand makes sense, but on the other, you just took away the most recognizable member of the Fantastic Four. Um, but like I was always sort of like inclined to like want to be interested in DC instead. So um, when I finally actually like it took maybe like a good 3 4 years ago for me to get the DC app, and so I finally got the DC app, and I've been reading a lot of the comics. I've been trying to like sort of catch up on things and stuff like that. And one thing I found myself really wanting to do was kind of connect the old series, the old comics from like yesterdecade to the current stuff, just to kind of see if there's a connection between the two. And then I that's when I learned about the crises, and I learned about like a lot of characters sort of like getting not necessarily erased, but kind of redid. But like I want to say Donna Troy and Hawkman have like some of the most bewildering storylines ever, and that's not even considering the fact that like there's like multiple Supermen, but not really, but there kind of is. I don't like the idea of a retcon. One of the big things I love about like anime and manga is that like the Luffy from chapter One Piece is the same Luffy in chapter 11, the same Luffy in chapter 111, the same Luffy in chapter 1111. It's like it's the same story every time. There's no retcons. I mean, there are time skips, but there's never a moment where it's like, by the way, this is a character from a different universe or something like that. And I get it, you know what I mean? People, writing, for like stuff that's been around for almost a century now. So it's like you have to find a way to keep the characters like relevant and recent. So it makes sense to kind of do stuff to sort of make them, like more prevalent now. But it's like it's still kind of annoying that like in order to do that you basically had to say, by the way, this Batman isn't the same Batman from the 1930s comic because that one died, and this one is another Bruce Wayne from another universe because that universe got wiped out by the Anti-Monitor but technically didn't. And the most recent crisis has basically brought all these universes back, and it's all types of stuff. So one thing I was trying my best to do is just kind of connect the current storylines to the past storylines, and it is crazy to do. Um, but it's like one thing I especially like though. I've been reading up on the most recent stuff, and I've been trying to read up on like a lot of the new stuff that kind of just sort of popped up, like Justice League Dark. I'm trying to, like I'm reading Justice League Dark, and it's I don't know, like Constantine is a cool character, but he's also annoying. And I kind of really don't like the fact that like I was trained to believe before I read this that Zatanna was like ridiculously powerful, but they're writing her as like like every single time she does her magic, it always gets thrown right back at her. So, but I'm reading this from like the 2011 comic, so clearly whatever lumps that she had to take in this recent series, she's gonna obviously get better as time goes by. I love progression, but it's just like it's really kind of it's weird kind of seeing that because Zatanna is pushed as like one of the most prolific and powerful magic users. And in this thing, it looks like it's currently Constantine that's like that. And Constantine is a bit of a limey person. But one thing I'm especially loving about current DC, like I'm reading also the Dawn of DC stories, and I'm reading a lot into like the most recent stuff, and I'm enjoying the fact that there's like like this. As I've always said this, like the right wing is the perfect comic book villains because they're an oppressive group, they're sociopathic, they want to hurt people, and they're ignorant enough to believe that what they're doing is good. So it's like, they're basically saying, we want to oppress people to protect ourselves, that kind of stuff. So I'm loving the fact that we get a chance to see that. I'm loving the fact that I get a chance to like see that in comic books. Like, like granted, it was always kind of there in a little, in kind of like just a little bit, but like now, okay, so for example, in the most recent Superman, you got this movement. They're called the Blue Earth movement, and it's basically what happens if you make like right wingers hate immigrants from other planets instead of immigrants from other countries. And like right now, we're starting to see like they're plotting like attacks on people. They're hurting people. They're like they're being led by a charismatic leader that looks like a child. I'm loving it because like it's very rare to like it's very like every so often the villain is usually like sort of sympathetic or like there's a or like they're misunderstood or they're just angry about something and hold on or they're just like kind of like it's something about them that automatically kind of just makes them relatable or something. They're not evil, they're just sort of misunderstood, like kind of like with the whole Metallo thing, whereas like you find out that like Metallo is just being brainwashed by Cyborg Superman, and he's just like being and he's just trying to protect his sister, and Cyborg Superman is like, I got your sister, all you gotta do is just do stuff, you gotta do is just do stuff that I want you to do, and I'll bring your sister back to you, blah blah blah. And it's like, but then like I said, the Blue Earth movement, I'm loving this because you get a chance to see like in the comic book universe that like that being a xenophobic sociopath is bad, and it's like these guys are you. um they're also doing it in the Wonder Woman, the most recent Wonder Woman that I'm actually starting to see too, and because you're starting to see like Wonder Woman. Okay, so for those who probably ain't reading the most recent Wonder Woman, what's happening right now is that like some lady, clearly some guys got a little fresh with an Amazon at the bar, and she basically massacred everybody in that bar. She massacred like it was like 18 guys, right? And the only reason why she got caught was because she spared the women. So women were like, "Oh no, like the person who massacred this whole bar, that was definitely an Amazonian woman." And as you guys already know, Wonder Woman is Amazonian. So there is this. So ultimately, there's this whole push towards getting the Amazons out of America because this one woman basically was proof that Amazons are dangerous, even though Wonder Woman's been in America for Lord knows how long, and she hasn't done any of these bad things. In any case, though, they are, there's a right wing, like everybody, if you're Southern, that there's always a guy who has like at least 4 guns in his house because he has this wet dream where, cops are going to go into his front door and basically say, Obama wants us to get rid of you. Obama wants us to take your guns away. And they, over my dead body, I've been preparing for you guys for years. You know what I'm saying? And you got like, so now you kind of, basically the Wonder Woman storyline kind of reverses that. Whereas now is the oppressive regime, you know what I'm saying? Basically getting rid of Amazon women simply because they're Amazonian. And there's this idea that like they're supposed to be getting sent back to where they, I always forget the name of where they're from. Man, I'm gonna just say Amazon Island for the most part. But they was trying. There's this belief that they're not really bringing them back over there, and you even get a chance to kind of see one family one family is in the process of getting like if evicted from their home in the most uncouth way imaginable. One of the Amazons actually ends up getting exterminated by the forces at the door, And it's like, well, what are you gonna? It's like, what about our child? Oh, Will got. Don't worry about it. She's gonna be in good hands. You know what I'm saying? It's just like you kind of have this whole thing going on, and so it's like there's clearly. I'm loving this term because I've always said that we need more right wing. Like we're actually starting to see who the bad guys are in real life, and we need to see that more in fiction because I'm convinced that people are starting to get into fiction and basically like kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, kind of like say they're starting to like the villain, and they're starting to act like evil people in real life are cool as long as they can sort of like connect them to the villain in fiction. I don't know if y'all know this, but I mean, it's kind of like because there are people out there that are stupid enough to do that, and we're so good at trying to make it seem like that's not the case that we ignore the times where that is exactly the case. Because like now we're starting to see people like just sort of just outright sympathize with pure evil just because, oh well, maybe they're not evil, maybe the force that they're challenging is the actual evil thing. And it's like, why is the force that they're challenging the actual evil thing? Oh well, we can't explain that right now, but that could be the case, so let's support the bad guy until we figure out why we should support the bad guy. It's just weird stuff like that, and there's people who think that way and push that narrative. So yeah, I'm loving these current and recent DC stories and stuff like that. And like I said, I'm also reading up on the new Milestone because Lord knows I love me some Milestone. I finished I finished Blood Syndicate a while ago, and I'm telling you, it's these stories are beautiful. These are untold stories that I feel like we really kind of need to sort of like tell more. So it feels good, man. It feels good. But yeah, I'm loving DC. I don't really read a lot of Marvel, if any, so I don't know anything about Marvel. I don't watch the Marvel movies because I don't have access to the Disney app, and plus I like I said, I'm just a little too lazy to watch the movies. Like I have like really bad ADD. It's like I'll look at the movie and then look away. Something was supposed to happen. It's like, oh crap, I gotta go back. At least with the comic books, I can just sort of like picture by picture. I can look away and yeah. Um, I'm also kind of getting into like there's an app from the local libraries that is called Comics Plus, and that app actually provides a lot of independent comics that are like not DC and Marvel. So I've been reading like Joe Yama. I've been reading some stuff from Unique Universe. Um, I was reading stuff from Europe Comics until I realized I didn't really like Europe Comics like that. I was also, Boom Studios and stuff like that. It's just like it's a lot of stuff on that app, and I definitely would recommend that to anyone. So if you're interested in that, definitely recommend it. So look that up. But yeah, like I said, man, this new DC universe stuff, I'm absolutely enjoying it because like like now villains are actually villains. You know what I mean? Instead of just like these sympathetically sad characters. No, they're actually evil now, and it's like sweet. It's like because it's like if you like these if you like these villains, then you're probably an a hole. So yeah, but that's about it. I just wanted to talk little bit about comic books to just show that I am more than just got going through stuff. So love, peace, happiness, and y'all be easy.